Hello, hello. We are live. It's showtime. I'm excited to be here. Um, Last week, if you noticed, there wasn't a scheduled webinar. I was out on vacation, but I'm here again. So I'm happy to share this space with you again these Thursday evenings. As usual, please let us know where are you tuning in from, what city, state, what industry you are in. Also, let us know what it is that you looking forward to today's session. What are you hoping to get out of? Um, yeah, so give it a few minutes for you guys to come in. I try not to. I know that usually I start right away, but today I was like, you know what? Let me give it a minute or two to allow you guys to come in and not feel that like you're coming in and I already got started with the presentation. Yes, I'm already seeing some people in the chat. Um, Shout out to New Jersey, Seattle, Sacramento, Texas. Love, love, love it. So today's session is going to be so good. It's one of my favorite. I have a lot of favorite topics, but this is one of my favorite ones. And it is one that resonates with a lot of us, especially as Latinas, as first gens. So I'm excited that all of you are here and you're tuning in from different places, statewide. Let's see if today we'll get anyone that's out of the States. In the past, I've seen Mexico, Argentina. So hopefully we have some of you in the house today. Chicago, lots of California people. Love, love it. I'm actually based in Los Angeles, California. So shout out to my West Coast people. Of course, I want to share some love also to my East Coast. All right. So let's get right into it because today there's going to be so many juicy things that we're going to talk about. And I definitely want to leave room for any questions or comments that you may have. There is a lot to go over. So I'll be mindful of our time and also of your guys's, participation and feedback. All right, so today's topic, rising above limiting beliefs, transforming self-doubt into confidence for Latinas. Wow, a lot to unpack. Limiting beliefs, self-doubt, confidence, a lot of things that many of us are very familiar with and still, have to work through it. I see someone from Mexico. Yay. All right. So, if you guys have been joining in and following me, my name is Norma Garcia. I've been the host of Latina Mental Health series. And so, for the past few weeks, I've had the pleasure to meet with you every Thursday at 5 p.m. for a 30-minute presentation where I get to discuss and provide you different practical strategies and tools all related to mental health. I am a licensed clinical social worker and an inner healing coach for Latinas. And so I'm very passionate about advocating and educating on all things mental health, whether it's our emotional, physical, mental well-being. I've spent, the past 10 years working in different agencies, working with Latino community, inspiring and supporting. My approach is to be culturally sensitive and trauma informed in terms of my interventions. I'm very passionate in helping high achieving Latinas and women of color in their healing journey. And in addition to all of that, mission of mine, and also educating and advocating is to be able to break generational trauma and also create a bigger impact within our community. So as you guys continue are trickling in and sharing where you're from, for those of you that have been with me, I appreciate that you're here. For those of you that are new, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're taking the time to share this wonderful space that we have going on here through Latina Professionals. So All right. So at any point, feel free, to ask questions, use the chat as a way to interact. I will be taking moments where I'm going to be, going back and forth in terms of, my presentation, but also the chat. I will leave some room at the end for questions. However, as I'm presenting information, feel free to also write some questions down, and I'll try to get to them if today's presentation, and if not, I'll make sure to get to them as soon as I can. All right. So I wanted to begin today with an exercise. I wanted us to take a moment to reflect before we get into talking about our limiting beliefs and our self doubts. I want you guys to take a moment and think about the things that you would like to achieve but aren't currently working towards. Okay, so you can do this, on your own, or if you feel brave and vulnerable, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat. But I really wanted to think about right now in our life at this point, what are some things that you've been wanting to do? What are some of your goals? Um, but you aren't currently working towards. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to think about what that is, and just keep it in your mind or just write it down or put it in the chat. Um, and then once you think about, what those things are, um, the next step is going to be thinking about, what are the reasons for not doing those said things? What are the reasons that you're not working towards the things that you would like to achieve? So the first part is just identifying what it is that you want to work towards, that you're not working towards. The second part is figuring out the reasons or what's interfering or what's getting in the way of you working on those things. So I'll give you guys about, a few seconds, to think about that. And again, this is just something to get our mind thinking about as we're going through the presentation. We start really thinking about what those things are and how our self-doubt and limiting beliefs come in hand. So let's see if anyone was willing to share in the chat. If not, no worries. All right. So, as you were thinking about, these questions, something that I know comes up for me, right, in terms of like what gets in the way are obviously the limiting beliefs, our fears, right? ¿Qué va a decir la gente? Um, and so I wanted to, talk about, right, what were some common themes that were coming up, right? What was it that came up for you when you were thinking about the reasons why you haven't done the things that you wanted to do? And a lot of that is our self-doubts, right? The beliefs that come up, right? So things such as like, I don't deserve success, I'm not qualified to start a business, I'm just going to fail if I try, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I should have already done X, Y, and Z. I'll never be one of the best. I'm not talented enough. I'll never be a great leader. These I ams. And so there is, a laundry list of so many other limited beliefs, but these are just some common ones that I found that come up when we think about, the things that, limit us in terms of pursuing the things that we want to go to, whether it's our goals, whether it's our dreams, and so on and so forth. Yes, I'm seeing here in the chat, second guessing myself, lack of time, fear of rejection and failure, absolutely. Leaning into vulnerability, feeling too old. Yeah. And so I just want to validate that all of these thoughts and statements that are coming up for you are valid, right? It makes sense why you believe this way or have these beliefs or think this way. And so let's now get into talking about like, defining, what is self-doubt and what is a limited belief, to then understand how it is that we need to move forward from this. So when we think about self-doubt, right, this is a lack of confidence regarding yourself, your abilities, your skills. You feel uncertain about certain situations, the decisions that you're making, certain aspects in your life. This is a mindset that it holds us back from succeeding and believing in yourself. And I imagine that most of you that are here in the room at some point in your life, if not currently or in the past, has experienced self-doubt. We all experience it. It's, I think, a natural humanistic emotion to have, this self-doubt. And I'm glad that you're here and that you want to lean into that and figure out what that is for yourself so that you can move from that self-doubt into the confidence piece. And so with the limiting belief, right, these are beliefs that are shaped throughout our life. They start as early as when you're a child up until your adulthood, right? Your experiences, society, your family, right? And so the limiting belief is simply a thought or a state of mind that you think, that you think that belief is true, and in believing in that, it limits you or stops you from doing the things that you want to do. These are like the stories that we tell ourselves in terms of who we are and what we should and shouldn't be doing. And so, we want to think about too, where do our limited beliefs come from, right? Especially like as Latinas, as Latinos in our community, right? Where do we learn our belief system, and it really comes from it comes from, our generations before us, our ancestors, if you think about like generational trauma, if we think about our upbringing, if you think about, the messages that we received within our families, the messages that we receive, within society, sometimes even just the messages or the expectations that we tell ourselves because that's what we think we feel, we need to or should be doing. But here are some common things that are found to be, factors that contribute us to having this self-doubt, right? Meaning not believing in ourselves, not feeling confident, thinking about, that in order to be successful, in order to get money, right, that we have to sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice, and also that, as a Latino community, we're also about like serving others. And so sometimes that comes at the cost of ourselves. I'm sure many of you have heard this saying, like, que te ves más bonita, right? And so that can also limit us of like, wait a minute, like if I'm loud, if I'm rebellious, or, if I speak my mind, then I'm going to perceive in this specific way, or they're going to see my vulnerabilities. It also happens that we say no to ourselves before someone else says no to us. Different, even thoughts about like, mejor no incomodar, la vida está llena de sacrificios. I don't know if many of you, who are perfectionists, also the scarcity mentality that there's limited resources for us, whether we grew up with criticism, right? Sometimes, we ourselves are our own self-critics, but also thinking about like, your family, your parents, right? Like, were they self-critical of you? Were they negative towards you? Did they put you down? And even just this idea, right, that among us Latinas, that there is this competition, right? That we need to compete with each other. We need to be better than each other. So these are all like different reasons, different factors that may contribute. Doesn't mean that they're all true for you, but it's important to recognize, right, the root. Okay, where is this doubt coming from, right? Where did it start? Like I said, this could be a multi-layered thing in terms of like your individual, your family, society. It's very layered in terms of where this doubt starts with. And understanding, right, like what is the impact of the self-doubt? Because we doubt ourselves, we don't believe in ourselves, we don't have that level of confidence, right? How does it impact us? What does it limit us? And so here, are just different things that potentially it can impact you, right? Perhaps it can stop you from starting that business that you would love. It can stop you from not asking for help. It can stop you from not being paid for what you're worth or what your value is. It can stop you from not embracing your own gifts and your talents, which I know that all of you have in this room. It also, creates you to like boundaries, right? Not being able to communicate or get your needs met. not being able to have that uncomfortable conversation, right? So, and there's, I'm sure, there's many more ways that this self-doubt, impacts us in terms of like what it is that our goals are or what it is that we want to do. But it's important to recognize, right, what is that self-doubt and how is it impacting us, and whether that impact, right, is it serving us or is it affecting us in the way that like it's interfering or not allowing us to reach our fullest potential or really go for that dream, life, job, whatever goal that we desire. So this work is not easy, accepting and acknowledging that we have doubts. It's uncomfortable. We have to be vulnerable, right? We have to have that awareness that, there's certain areas or aspects of our lives that perhaps that we lack confidence and we doubt ourselves. And, it's part of the individual effort, but it's also the collective effort in terms of like who you're surrounding with, right? Who is it that is adding or creating, more self-doubt that you already have. And so we want to be able to move, from this self-doubt to self-confidence. And, this movement, this shift, right? It's an ongoing process. It's a practice, right? Where you have to really be mindful and intentional about, how it is that the doubt is presenting, and then also how to build that confidence when it's needed. And the self-doubt can be in different things. It could be for your personal life, it could be your relationships, it could be, your profession. I do feel a lot that the doubt comes a lot in our profession in terms of like our performance, in terms of like the roles that we're in. And especially as Latinas, right, we may not occupy a lot of spaces, right, that perhaps other people do. So that in itself can be intimidating. Sometimes being like the only Latina in the room, right? That in itself, that environment can feed and add to our already, doubt or limited beliefs that we already have. So I want to empower all of you guys, that whatever the situation is, wherever your doubt is, to lean into that. So that way, when you start having that awareness and understanding, okay, this is what I, lack confidence in, right? This is what I'm doubting myself in, and how can I move through this? And so with self-confidence, right, just kind of defining what it is, is being able to trust yourself, being able to feel confident in your skills, your abilities, your qualities, your judgment. This also means being able to accept yourself as you are. You are as you are, and that is enough. And we need to believe that within ourselves. The way that I like to think of confidence is not about being like arrogant or you're like this like cocky person. It's more about you're comfortable in your own skin. You know what you have to bring to the table. You know your value, and you stand by it and you align with it. It's also about being able to take risks, right? Having courage, right? To step out of your comfort zone and do things, right? That may be, vulnerable, that may be out of your comfort zone, right? And so, in order to again to move from this like self doubt to confidence, first we need to start with our self doubt and having that awareness, and be able to identify your limited beliefs. What are your beliefs, right? There could be similarities, but again, we're all unique. We're all different. We have different ways of interpreting and experiencing things. So, really looking within yourself and understanding, okay, what are my beliefs? What are my limiting beliefs? And ways to do that is thinking about, what is it that triggers you? What are situations or certain people that trigger you, where you start feeling like you don't trust yourself, you're having doubts, you're having these ideas or these beliefs that are limiting your true potential. That's what you want to start. You want to assess, your behaviors, assess why it is, again, you're not achieving those goals or you're not moving towards or taking those necessary steps to get you, your desired outcomes. After you identify and have awareness of your limiting beliefs, you then want to challenge those beliefs, right? Because our beliefs, these are just beliefs. They're just statements, right? They're not facts. They're just thoughts that come from our mind, right? And so there's a term called emotional reasoning, where just because we feel a certain way, we believe that is true, and that thinking style is not helpful, right? And so we want to start also challenging, right, our thoughts, right? Like, what is the evidence to support that that belief or that thought is whether it's true or not, right? Where's the evidence, right? Um, so we just don't want to take our thoughts and beliefs as is, right? We want to, accept them. We want to have awareness of them. At the same time, we also want to challenge them so that way we can then start formulating and changing our thought process, right? What are different ways to look at the situation, right? What are different ways that perhaps I can be more positive, right? Or how can I look at this in a more helpful, effective way? So once you identify your beliefs, then you want to challenge them by again asking, looking at evidence like to what supports or not supports that belief. Then you want to start, changing that self-talk into a more positive one. And sometimes and a helpful way of doing this is by putting yourself in a situation where, like, if let's say your friend was going through this, what would you tell your friend? What advice would you give your friend? And sometimes when you step out of that, out of your own self, you're able to perceive and approach things in a very different way. Part of this is also thinking about, okay, like, what is the worst case scenario here? What if, let's say, let's say I want a promotion at my job, right? Or I want to ask my boss to give me an increase in pay, right? What's the worst that can happen by me, talking to my boss, right? The worst that can happen is that they can say no, right? So if let's say that that is the outcome, then how do I handle that my boss said no, right? So even when you think about the worst case scenario, it's also about, like, how would you cope and handle that situation so that way you feel like you're more prepared. And also, thinking about, like, what have you learned from your past successes and failures, right? So thinking about, what has worked and what hasn't worked. So I know that was a lot. So please, ask any questions, ask for any clarifying statements in terms of anything that I mentioned. There's so much to uncover and unlearn and take apart in terms of self doubt. Obviously, there's not enough time to really go into depth in terms of all the different elements of it, but hopefully just with this introductory of, like, identifying, your belief system, how to challenge it, how to start changing it, right? That can then turn into, then, okay, how can then I start building my confidence? And so another way that you can start increasing awareness or understanding your limiting beliefs is by asking yourself these questions, right? So think about a situation that you're currently struggling with, right? And then add the word because. So let's say that the situation is that you want to start a business, right? So let's say I can't start a business because, and then you fill in the blank, right? I can't start a business because I don't have enough money to invest. I can't start a business because I'm too scared to fail. I can't start a business because um, I don't even know where to start, right? So kind of framing it in that way where you identify what the situation is, and then adding that because, there you can start really identifying and exploring, right? What are those limiting beliefs? So if any of you have any examples of, like, a situation that you want to share in the chat, please do so. I would love to see kind of like the areas that you are currently, working through and perhaps needing more support with. Because right now, depending on where we're at in our own, healing journey, right, or in terms of, like, our professions, the situations can vary for everyone. And so here's an example of a limiting belief, right? Like, I'm a victim of my circumstances, right? So what would be a different way, for this belief, right, to perhaps be more empowering, this belief to be more positive, to be more productive, right? Perhaps you have been a victim to certain circumstances. Perhaps things have happened to you, right? But when we keep ourselves in this belief, right, that you're the victim, and not looking at it in a different way, this is what's going to keep you stuck in that position where, because of fear, because of rejection, you're not going to move towards that confidence. So an example of an empowering belief, right, that my circumstances are opportunities to grow and create meaning in my life, right? So just by looking at those beliefs, right? Like, can you already tell the difference, right? How the first one is very limiting and this one, it's still acknowledging, right, that you went through circumstances, that something was impactful, right? But in this instance, right, you're looking at it in a different perspective, that your circumstances are opportunities, right, to grow and create meaning in life. So whichever, whatever limiting beliefs that you do have, I do encourage you, to write a list of what they are and start, reframing them. Start, looking at like, how can you change that belief into something more empowering, something that's going to be more effective and it's going to get you closer to achieve your desired goal. Okay, so how do we build confidence? Again, not an easy concept. It's not like step one, two, three. All of this is a continued practice and effort that you have to continue to be putting in, because some days you're gonna feel so confident and some days you're not, and that's absolutely okay. To just kind of accept the flow of in terms of like where your confidence is, but some things that um, could be helpful is, being kind to yourself, right? Like moving away from criticizing and judging yourself and even comparing yourself, for you to be your own cheerleader, right? To like affirm yourself, like, si se puede, I can do this, right? I was able to do X, Y, and Z. I can definitely, do this, right? So you also have to like push and motivate yourself and cheer yourself on that you can do this. Because again, it's all like the mindset, right? If you go in with something like, I can't do this, I'm gonna fail, which is all valid, right? That, however, is gonna limit you and keep you there. Um, you also have to, be able to recognize and embrace your unique values and strengths, right? So this is another area where I would like you to also spend some time in, right? Is that, make a list, like write things down, like what are your qualities? What are your skills? What are your strengths? What are your lived experiences? What are things that you've gone through that make you you, right? That make you unique. There's this, a lot of the time we have like doubts in terms of like, I don't have enough experience, or I don't have like the skill set, or I'm not good enough. But if we really think about just our own experiences and the things that we've lived through, our stories is what makes us unique. Our stories is what sets us apart from everyone else. So I want you to start embracing that, embrace your uniqueness, and really thinking about embracing your own identity and your story within our culture. Right, there's a lot of cultural, factors in terms of like our work ethic and even stereotypes, right? But being able to really accept, right, who you truly are. Um, and when you accept yourself, right, you're able to really build that confidence. And whenever possible, if you need to change the narrative, right, in terms of like, whether you feel like you're a victim to things, or things happen to you, or you can't do something, right? It's all about changing the narrative to change the stories that you tell yourselves, right? Whatever isn't serving you or working for you anymore, you can change that. Just the same way that you created that narrative, you can easily, change it. So this is about coming from a mentality of being courageous and being resilient. As Latinos, we're so resilient. We have been able to overcome so many things as first gens, as that of immigrants, second gen, like everything that we that is under like our identities, right? We have been able, to come together individually in collective effort, right, to empower each other, to really overcome a lot of adversity. So I really want us to also tune into that, right? Like think about too, taking the good parts of our culture, like what makes our culture stronger, what makes our culture unique, what makes our culture even like more powerful, and really focusing on the positive things and really even like visualizing, right, when those doubts come in, right, being able to visualize your success, right, being visualize what it is that you want to achieve, visualizing meaning, what would it be like if you were to start your own business? What would it be like if you were, to ask for a promotion or to ask for a salary? Like, what would that, being able to dream and visualize what that would be like, that in itself is so powerful in creating motivation and inspiration, to push you to want to move through that uncomfortableness and lean into that. So that way, you can really, start building this confidence, within yourself. Awesome. Any questions so far? I know, again, that was a lot. If there's anything, more that you want me to go into right now, feel free to ask any questions. Um, I know a lot of this perhaps, you've heard of you're familiar with, but really starting with looking within yourself and seeing where your doubts are. And as you're recognizing those doubts, and as you move through different situations, and you are being triggered, to lean into that, right, and really face it, right, and try to figure out, where that doubt is coming from, and working through it, and finding perhaps a different way to approach it. And even if it means in that moment you're not feeling confident, you're having a hard time moving through that, the fact that you're acknowledging it and having that awareness, that in itself is already one step forward. And so, what I would like for you guys, to take for today is, to start thinking about, right, what is something that you want to do for yourself starting today, right? What is it that you want to start committing to in terms of, you building your confidence? So that could be, writing your limiting beliefs, maybe working on one specific limited belief, maybe outlining your goals. It could be, different ways to like build your confidence. It could be, how do you start embracing like your identity? How do you change your narrative? So I want you to think of something and, putting an intention to it. And for today and even the rest of the weekend, or however long it takes you to really start thinking about that. So, I really want you to start challenging yourself and really leaning into that. We all have self doubts. I have self doubts as well. For me, even as a therapist, as a coach, I constantly have to do this work. There's times where like I just don't feel confident, or it's hard for me to show up. But then I have to remind myself, right, the power of working through the uncomfortableness and leaning into it and being vulnerable, and even just acknowledging the process, that it's okay if you're not always going to be confident, right? But I think the work here is, how do you move through that? So, and lastly, I just want to let you guys know that you're all worthy and you're all enough. Okay. If anything from today's presentation for you to take away is that you are worthy and you are enough, and whatever you set your mind to and do, you can absolutely do it. And so with that being said, any questions, any comments? Um, anyone want to share their experience of maybe something they did recently where they worked through their self-doubt, or something that really they're proud of, a recent accomplishment? I know for me myself, just some disclosure, like me showing up in these presentations, I've had to build my confidence in showing up and being here and presenting. um, because prior to this, I did not see myself as a speaker, as a presenter. And so I need to start visualizing and even just showing up and being here and just going with it. And let me just say that all of you have been truly amazing, and just, being here and being present, being mindful, being interactive. And, you guys are the ones really creating this like positive, this vulnerable, this inclusive and safe space that each week it just inspires me to want to continue, coming back and working on my own, self-doubt, and confidence. So, I share that, to hopefully also, inspire you, to be able to do, something for yourself, because you absolutely deserve it. You all deserve it. And as Latinas, and if we work together, if we come together, we empower each other. Let's unite. Let's build each other, because together we are that much stronger. Awesome. So, I'll take a look at the chat right now to see if there's any questions. But just so you're aware, next week we are going to talk about how to cultivate healthy relationships. We're really gonna get into, how do we improve our communication and boundaries within ourselves, but also in our relationships. All right, so let me head over to the chat and get to ask, and let's get to see some questions or look through feedback. So I'm gonna highlight you, Margarita, right now that you recently been promoted to middle management. I've learned so much within the last few months in terms of developing your leadership skills. Amazing, particularly emotional intelligence, which has improved my ability to connect with my direct reports. Love that. Emotional intelligence. I absolutely love that word. Congratulations. Super proud of you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm like shouting you guys out. I think we can repeat with specific real cases, such as taking one procrastinating goal at a time, put it at the test, with Latinas and other for feedback. Absolutely. Jackie completed a leadership program that helped her go into a brave space and deal with a difficult conversation in a constructive manner. Wow, congratulations. And even again, sometimes the self-doubt is just having those conversations because they're difficult. Let's see. I just got my master's and the job search has been tough. How can I continue to remain confident over a few rejections? Yes. Well, first of all, congratulations on your master's. I mean, you finishing your master, that in itself should be very telling of your character, of your potential, of your ability, right, to get things to get things done. What I would say is really focus on, what you have to bring, like your value, right? Your skill set, what do you have to offer, right? With the job search, it is going to require, perhaps applying to multiple places until you get interviews and whatnot. But through that time, just tell yourself that the more that you apply, that the more visible and exposed you're going to get. And the more time it's going to give you to really prepare yourself and really reflect and think about what is it that you have to bring to this job, because not only are they interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them, right? Coming in with like questions, coming in with expectations. So I would say a lot of like that self-talk, encouraging yourself, right? That each time you do apply, that's like a win. That be patient with yourself, and just remember your skill set and what you have to offer. And if anyone else has feedback for Tiffany, please, let's support each other. Let's give each other ideas of, maybe if you've gone through something similar, or what are ways that you have built your confidence in situations like that. So we are past 5:30. So for those of you that want to stick around and ask questions, I'm here. Let's see. Claudia, I recently read an article about prioritizing relationships over work-life balance, and it resonated with me because too many times we feel like we fall at one thing or another, and it's about the quality of the relationships within ourselves and those around us. Beautiful. I'm so happy, that you shared that, and this kind of ties in with next week's topic, but when we think about our confidence, when we think about our well-being, right? A lot of the time it's focused on our job, our profession, our careers, right? Our performance. That sometimes, yeah, we forget about our personal lives, right? We forget about the quality of our lives, So I love that you bring this attention that we need to prioritize ourselves and our relationships and just our lives. So that way, we can also present and show up differently in different areas of our lives. I'd like to share that won't let the background noises stop you from reaching your goals. I landed on my dream job without a high school diploma. I just graduated from high school a year ago. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Congratulations. Yes. So much good feedback. I love the interactions. Again, I think today's topic was really great. If there's something specific, that you want me to focus more on, perhaps bring a presentation specifically, more on like focusing on just the self-doubts, on the confidence, I'm always open for suggestions. Or if you have any other suggestions on different topics that you may have, please send them my way. Alrighty, so for the sake of time, I am gonna close out the live for today. But you guys can still continue in the chat, supporting each other, asking questions. I'll make sure whatever I didn't go through to make sure that I provide some feedback. But again, thank you all for being here every Thursday at 5 p.m. And so I look forward to seeing you Wednesday. You guys have a great night.